Hello, my beautiful friend. I hope you're doing really, really well. As you can tell, we are in a new space, which comes with the new year, so I thought for all the new subscribers that have joined, we could get to know each other a little bit, and if you are a reoccurring subscriber, this is just a great way to refresh our memory. But yeah, I'm going to be asking some questions that maybe you haven't been asked before, or if you have, not very often, and kind of get to pick your brain a little bit. Of course, if it's too personal or you're just uncomfortable with the question, feel free to skip and we'll move on. Okay? Alright. I do apologize for any dog sounds. I do have a neighbor who has 2 dogs that are outside every day barking for hours on end. And I also live with 2 dogs now, so it's quite an adjustment, that's for sure. But let's just get into it. We're going to start off simple, and then we'll get really into the deep questions. So, starting off with, what is your full name? I like your middle name. Yes. As some of you may know, Brittney May's being my middle name, Brittney's my first. Alright, so number 2. Are you religious or spiritual? If so, which and why? Wonderful. So I would say I'm personally more on the spiritual side. I never grew up religious or anything like that, just because my parents wanted me to decide for myself when I was old enough kind of what route I wanted to take. If I wanted to join a religion, I could do that, or if I didn't want to, which is where I'm at now, I didn't have to, and they would support me either way. I've just personally never connected with any religion. There's a lot of things I don't agree with within certain religions. I don't judge anyone who is interested or is part of any religion. To each their own. I know it helps a lot of people in different ways. Personally, I am more on the spiritual side. There's just so many things that have happened to me that I feel spiritual is kind of more what explains what I've experienced rather than religion. So, I don't want to go too much into it, but I would say I'm more spiritual. Definitely more spiritual than religious. Okay, question number 3. What or who would you sacrifice yourself for? Fair enough. I would sacrifice myself for my family, my fiance, my cats. The connection with my cats is unreal. I could not let anything happen to them. I would sacrifice myself for my unborn child that will be here in about 2 months, which is crazy to think about. Now that I think about it, there's a lot of people I would sacrifice myself for, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Okay, next question. What brings you the most joy in life? It's honestly such a hard question because so many things bring me joy. I would say my cats. Just being grateful for where I am in life. My channel, I never thought I would be doing this. It's always been a dream of mine, but I never actually thought it would become reality. My family, so many things. What is your biggest fear? And don't worry, you may think it's silly, but I won't judge. We listen and we don't judge. My worst fear, this one's kind of dark, like I don't want to jump into it, but my worst fear is death. Like just the unknown. Obviously there's something after you die, just not knowing, I think, is what freaks me out. The people I love around me dying. I don't want to get too dark, so I'm gonna lighten it up. I have a really bad fear of bugs, but specifically butterflies and moths. They just, I don't know what it is. They are not, I don't know. Butterflies are pretty to look at, I'll give them that, but they freak me out. I don't want one touching me or anything. Okay. Next question. If you could go back in time and change one thing about your past, what would it be? Interesting. Mine would probably be starting my channel earlier. I don't know if that necessarily would have helped, but if I could go back in time and just tell myself, don't care what other people think about you, I probably would have started my channel years before than what I did. I waited until after high school because I was so scared of seeing people at school and them looking at me weird. But at the end of the day, I could care less now what they think, and I'm sure they could care less either. I'm sure there's some people who gossip and whatnot, but sorry, the heater came on. Living in a house versus an apartment, we have vents, which I haven't experienced in a couple of years, so I'm sorry if you hear that in the background. But as I was saying, if they have the time and are invested in actually talking about what I do and how I spend my time, they are clearly very insecure with themselves, and that is not my issue to worry about. So, final answer for that. Next question is, what's a memory you'll never forget? I'll take a second to think that one through. I'm gonna think of one too. Interesting. A memory that I will never forget is when I was actually on the news. Embarrassingly enough, if you look it up on YouTube, you will find it. I'm not going to give the title away because I don't want you to find it because it's so embarrassing. But I was on the news because my friends and I stupidly were walking on the ice 2 of them actually fell through, and it was like in deep water. Could have gone horribly wrong. Luckily, it didn't. I was able to pull them both out of the water, and we got back home. I ended up getting a reward for it, silver and bronze, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I have a small fear of ice too. I guess that is an answer to the other question earlier. But next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? That's great. The best piece of advice that I've personally been given that I try to live by every day is 30% is better than 0%. So you may be upset with yourself for not doing anything, but even if you did like a tiny little percentage of what you wanted to do, that is still something, and you should be proud of that. I always am such a perfectionist, and I get so mad at myself for not completing tasks. Or when I used to go to the gym, I wouldn't push myself as hard, and I'm like, you are showing up. That is a percentage. That's 30%. You know, I am not doing nothing. So I always try to look for the positives in that. But that's probably the best advice I've been given. What's a hobby that you've been wanting to start? That's cool. I've never thought of that, actually. Mine is, I've been really wanting to learn how to crochet. I'm actually going to get stuff for it. I only have to commit, which we'll get there. I really want to learn how to like crochet those big like knitted blankets. Do you know what I mean? With like super thick fabric. I think those are so cute, and I want to make one for my future daughter. So, crochet, final answer. Alright. What advice would you offer to your younger self? That's great. I like that as well. I have a couple. I would tell her, again, not to care what other people think about you. Try a little bit harder in school. It's okay. I know you think you're too cool for it, but that if you actually paid more attention, I feel like I would have a lot more fonder memories. And probably, I don't know. There's so many things I wish I could tell myself, but those are probably the main ones. Alright, next question. What is your biggest weakness? Interesting. Mine would be probably caring too much and always thinking the worst for every outcome. I have such terrible anxiety that any situation that occurs, I just immediately think the worst thing ever. So that's great. What are you grateful for? I am grateful for the life that I've been given. I know a lot of people have it rough anxiety, but when I really think about it, it could be so much worse. I have a roof over my head, I have a great support system, and I am truly grateful for that. And my cats, of course. What do you love about yourself? That's great. I love, even though I do care too much, I love that I'm able to connect and sympathize with other people and see things from their point of view. I guess I also like my eyes if we're being superficial or like physical appearance. I love my eyes. I think they're one of my best features. Alright. So, let me write down your answer here. What legacy do you want to leave behind in this world? That's great. I want people to remember how much I have hopefully helped people with sleep, relaxation, comforting. I want to be known as someone who went out of their way to help people in need. And on a lighter note, I want to be remembered for loving my cats so much, maybe being a crazy cat lady. What wouldn't you do for money? Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I would do that either. I would not give up my cats. You could not pay me enough. They are with me till the very end. There's like deeper things I could say, but I want to keep that one a little bit lighter. Next question. Would you choose to be friends with yourself? I think I would. I would get along with myself. I think I'd get annoyed. I think it'd be like a sibling kind of love, but we would have a lot in common. I think I'd be friends with myself now than I would be in high school. I was a very different person back then. When I think about it, I was a little bit of a troublemaker. My teachers, some teachers, were not fond of me, and I get it. What is something you've taken for granted? I feel like that is very common, and you're not alone in that. I feel like I've taken my life for granted, especially when I was younger. I always thought everything was against me, and it's taken time for me to realize that it's not. This life that I've been given is worth a lot more than what I thought it was. I feel there's so many things, but that's like the main one I can think of right now. So I'll go with that. What is your earliest childhood memory? Interesting. I like that. My earliest memory was when my mom was taking me and my older sister to the park, and remember I was probably like 3. I had to have been no older than 3 because we didn't move to our other house, which I lived in for the majority of my life. It was before that. And I remember this yellow tube slide that went all the way down, and I made a friend in there, and we would just hang out in the slide and play in there. And then my mom said it was time to leave, and then I never saw that girl again. And that's probably the earliest memory that I have, but that is I think, yeah, that's all the questions. Let me just double check. Okay, I have like 2 more questions to ask. So, do you like who you are right now? Great answer. I would say yes, but there's always room for improvement. Like, there are some things I'd like to work on, but I definitely like myself now that I did back then. And last question, was this a good questionnaire? Did I pick your brain well? Thank you. I think that those were some pretty good questions to ask. Yeah, well, thank you so much for spending time with me, and I feel like this was kind of chaotic and all over the place, but I had a lot of fun spending time with you, and let me know how you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you soon.